In today's modern world, interfaces need to kind of update themselves with what we have. We have tools like this. This is the Google Home Mini. The Google Home Mini accepts voice commands. So you can say, "Okay Google, change to the paintbrush tool." So now what my interface will do is look at, okay, we're on the selection tool, now it's going to go ahead and find the paintbrush tool and say, right, there's the paintbrush tool, and I can do it all with my voice. I think that voice control is the future, and I believe that if we can actually run this in the application itself, we can listen to the user's microphone. So instead of saying, okay Google all the time, it's just listening in app mode, and if it hears something like paintbrush or pen tool or whatever tool, and it finds that tool, it just does it automatically without the need to say, okay Google, or even use these types of devices. It can just do it in-house. There are some open source algorithms out there that can identify what this person is asking for. So it's going to be a very simple interface, and once you select the brush tool, the properties inspector window changes, and we can edit the brush in a beautiful user interface. Every tool will be in detail and will be just astonishingly good next to the interfaces that we have today. So that's that. Next we have view and the zoom of the view. So right now you know that we're only going to have one window for all of our properties. So if you can imagine, if I can do this live, I will demonstrate it to you. I will have something like this. So when they hover over it, you'll see it scales. So I also like the idea of having a scalable interface. Things where things go smaller and larger depending on the user's focus, depending on potentially a little bit of AI in there to know what the user typically does in the interface. It's going to be a lot smarter and a lot more unique. Now, the other side of the equation is also zooming in a timeline. You see, a timeline is very interesting, but the problem is whenever I use ScreenFlow, which is what I'm using to record my desktop, I have to zoom the entire timeline and make little adjustments. You know, when you need to make very finite adjustments to get things to sync to audio and so forth. Well, it can be a bit of an arduous task when you can have layers and layers deep. You can go this deep, even more. I've gone well more than that. And that's the problem. The problem is that it's not good enough. So what I need to do is apply a zoom here. So I can press a hotkey, I can instantly have a little zoomed circle, and I can very slightly control where we're at. Okay? So what that zooming on the timeline lets me do is not zoom the whole timeline and re-render the timeline, and it's quite an expensive process when you consider that your timeline can have hundreds of assets on it. You can just focus on that one asset, tweak it, and then when you release the hotkey, the zoom goes away, and Bob's your uncle, you're back in your interface. Now also, we can have AR mapping. Now this I'm just going to do with a video overlay. We have AR, we know that we can have a drone that streams to the canvas or the artboard, and of course we can have AR tracking on that. In fact, Google already has algorithms that let you track landscapes and so forth, so it's not that difficult to do. And we can hopefully integrate that into the software. But also you can have touch controls, so when you touch, you can change the object that's being mapped. So I think that touch adds an element. That could also add an element in the AR space as well, augmented reality. You're looking at a server, for example, you're looking at the QR code on the server or whatever it is. It gives you information about the server, and you can touch and swipe and look at all the databases stored on the server or all of the file systems on the server, or you could even touch tabs that are in the AR space. So if you have AR, you can have an AR interface with tabs, and you can just touch, and it can identify what you're touching by what you're touching on screen, and your interface can change. Your AR space changes, and of course that's what that actually just came from film and television. If you watch Minority Report, they've got holograms and whatever else, but it's augmented reality as well, and they can move stuff around and do all the rest of it. Clever. Also, we can have future devices. This one is the device that I currently own. Somebody sent it to me from Scan Marker. I'm not saying that I'm affiliated with this company or they endorse what I'm doing, but I feel like giving them a shout out anyway, and I'm certainly not selling, I'm not paid to sell this product, so there's no PR stuff. But it's quite a nice little handy hand scanner where all you do is you run this tip, whoops, I'm putting it over the viewport, you run it over this tip here, and what happens is when you push down and you press, it starts to scan, and you can scan all sorts of words and letters and take notes instantaneously. This connects via Bluetooth. If you can see the Bluetooth light, if this camera will focus. Come on, camera. No, it doesn't want to do it. It just connects by Bluetooth. So once you finish scanning, the Bluetooth indicator comes on and it literally just lets you paste text into the scanner. Let me go back. And so what that does is then it lets you paste text from what you scan. So this is also a nice little tool. It integrates already into the software. It doesn't need anything special to do it. It's already got the widgets and all the rest of it. So that's a nice little addition to the software. Because I never really thought about hand scanners and how important they can be. But you know, when you have lots of notes and lots of other stuff, they're actually quite useful. But again, I am not being endorsed by this company. I am not being paid if you purchase it. There's no special link where it tells them they've come from Mr. Lawrence or whatever. I'm not paid by these people. Just to be really, really clear. And anybody accused me of such, so not true. Alright, and so now we've gone over all of the different aspects of the interface. I also wanted to demonstrate audio as well. There's one last thing in audio that was missed, so I think it's worth mentioning. You have the VR headsets, but you also have the hand controls for the headsets. Now, when you look at beatboxers on the stage, they're going boom, 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 you know, and they've got their hands. Sometimes their hands follow the pitch, for example, and their hand can do that, and the volume as well, boom, or the beat. So what's really cool is giving people accessibility to make music. You'll find that some people can actually be mute. And of course, obviously they can play real instruments to do this. But some people, if they're mute, they can use these hand controls to control the pitch and the audio, and they can turn the handheld control, and they can change the filter on the control or do something with it. So you're bringing VR space closer to music space and audio, and I think that will add a level of creativity into the software that I don't think I comprehend yet, but I'm sure when I give it to the hands of creatives and it's finally built, they can start to make this. But when you have the hand controls, you can do what you like. You can change pitch, you can change the audio space, anything you like really. So that's available. And I'm just thinking, is there anything else? Okay, so also what we need to do is discover about streaming from a computer. Obviously a mobile device is very weak. It's not very strong when it comes to rendering, and especially it would kill itself if you try and render a fully interactive artboard. It's kind of like saying open up the entirety of Photoshop. Now the interface, all of the options will be available on tablets, and I expect this software to run wherever it can, even on mobile phones, because mobile phones today are incredibly powerful. But they're still not going to be able to deliver the graphical user interface. They just can't do it. Their GPUs, they've upgraded the CPUs. The CPUs are great, but the graphical processors are nowhere near. They can't touch tablets. They can't touch, and tablets can't even touch laptops. That's why professionals still have laptops. Creatives do, because we know that tablets just simply won't do. So this is what we're trying to do here, and I don't care what you say about Microsoft Surface, it is not a tablet, it is a desktop. It is an all-in-one desktop with a screen, a keyboard attached. So these things are laptops, and we really can't replace them in the creative space. It just can't happen. But what we need to do is think about more and more people want to use mobile devices. They want to create in the space that they currently reside in, and that's fine. But I think that we can go one step further, where we integrate the entirety of the interface into these mobile devices, but allow the more powerful desktop machines, laptop screens like this one, they'll all be connected to a database, where we create a Scratch database and we allow a streaming service to run through the database. So we're literally delivering the graphical elements. So when somebody says move that there, or move this here, we have almost nearly real-time results when people move things. Now that's a big ask, but I'm sure with the right database we could probably deliver that. One more extra service that could be included is an IoT service or a SaaS service, which I know FSF people hate, but FSF can't compete in the cloud. But you could have people pay for a SaaS service for Oracle, for example, or whatever service you want, and they use their computers to do the processing and deliver the results in real time, or as close to real time as they can, on all the devices connected. In this case, we've got 3 devices connected, John, Joanne, and Jamie. So we're trying to use the computing power of the more powerful computers, scale the canvas down, even use subsampling and resampling, so that we just get the best results out of the canvas as possible. How feasible that is? I think it is feasible on today's phones. You can run WebGL in those devices, but I think that there will be limitations for now until computing, or especially GPU technology updates. GPU technology is very good, but it still hasn't had a revolution. It's not had a major revolution. It's just got more GDDR RAM, and it's got more of this, but it's not been revolutionary overall with speed. It has got speed, but it needs to be even quicker. I think that's the future of where we're going.